G'day punters, here we are for a bit of punting Melbourne style. I'm joined by the punters punter, Dan Kelly.
How are you, mate? Back on the back up.
We had a suggestion last week come in on the email, DK. Someone suggested you blokes should think about doing this every week. So you've got your wish for this week, mate.
Here we are.
But more often than not, it just
right.
time is of the essence, and particularly this time of year with the race-free Mondays, we're not too bad.
Race-free Mondays, and we're right in the middle of the autumn carnival.
Yeah,
it's an important time, and Mark Reed. One of the first things I learned of Mark Reed was the love of the quick back up.
Yeah,
I always love it, especially on a wet track. We love the quick back. It's not wet tracks here today in the middle of summer, but autumn. But anyway, love a quick back up. Here we are.
Yeah, but throughout the whole year, it's just not viable for us to do it every week, but we do it as often as we can. So,
yeah.
And I'm sure everyone will get sick of us if we do it every week. So
yeah, that's right.
We run out of
Yeah,
things to talk.
Yeah, that's right. We want to be informative and things. So
anyway, DK, it's as you said, even though it's still summer, we're in the middle of the autumn carnival.
Yeah.
It seems to be. It seems to get earlier every year, which means that the horses don't get as much time from the spring to spell and come back.
Well, we'll talk about that later on. About there was, for a meeting like that on Saturday, there was quite a few resumers there, but we can, which I thought, maybe they should have been up and going. But anyway, yeah, it's interesting.
I'm not sure how it all works. I've never actually looked at the calendar, but it's probably because they work the whole autumn carnival back. I know that in Sydney they do from Easter, when Easter falls, which moves. Sometimes it's well into April, sometimes it's in March. Who knows? So maybe that's why things feel a bit earlier this year. But there we go. And the big highlight there on Saturday, DK, was the Tassie filly, who you spotted off that outstanding winner, Caulfield.
Yeah, Caulfield. Yeah, that was. She's. It's great to see her to win on that big race on Saturday.
Yeah.
And she's obviously everyone else's. Once she won at Moonee Valley, everyone was awake to her. But we found her a start before that. But I think watching her dash through on the inside, that acceleration, encouraged by some overuse of the whip, but we'll get to that later. But she would have won anyway, but wouldn't have mattered. But you got overexcited, the A-Dar Minute. But
well, it was a terrific race. It was exciting. So once there's a $1 million race like that, the jockeys, the adrenaline's pumping, tends to be game on. Big field, like what sort of wasn't a choice. Obviously, the drawn outside, so it had to keep pushing till it got to the front, and he did a great job, Mark Zara, and a terrific run by Hawkshot.
Yeah, he's a real horse, isn't he? He's a racehorse.
And an exciting race, and because they were all fully tested, the cream rose to the top there, and she's just got a margin on them. And they're a fairly moderate overall team of 3-year-olds, but we're starting to identify, at least in Victoria, which ones have got the real quality. And it is,
that's a race like that shows, as you said, the cream at the top.
Yeah,
it helps to identify that. So she was good, mate. That was terrific. Terrific. And there was another. I suppose that was the highlight. And the other big highlight was what we thought might be a bit of a pedestrian run for Winx, and turned into the great horse Happy Clapper and a sensational Beachian ride. And, turned it into a contest.
How exciting! How exciting! And like the best thing about that is it really makes Happy Clapper. He was always going to be a live chance and a presence in the All-Star Mile, but now he's exciting because you've got to pick, because he's got like some real peaks in his form.
That's what that was.
And he's a champion miler, really.
So,
and he's coming off what is
a
beautiful platform, like at the distance. It's just now, in a way, he's been trained by Winx.
Yeah. But can he repeat what he did there on the weekend? That's going to be the question. So Adam Blenko and a few people discussing that. Which number are you going to put against him in the All-Star Mile?
It's a mouth-watering discussion. It's a mouth-watering thing to think through. The thing I would just say is he is a two-filo, and they've got a pattern of being very good third up.
There you go. All right.
And that horse in particular has always been very good third up. So I just think it's exciting for him to come to a race in Melbourne, which he hasn't done really. Often he starts in Melbourne have been after the grand final. And he's trying to reproduce it. This is the first time he's coming where this is it.
Yeah,
it's
terrific with that, and then the momentum building up to the All-Star Mile now. So but I was going to say that the Blake Shin factor. I mean, he nearly brought her undone when he was in that absolute peak of red hot form on Humidor in that Cox Plate.
Yeah.
That ride, just sensational ride by Huey. He was outbeating Huey, staying out of trouble. And then he's nearly done it again there on Saturday, just letting a Happy Clapper roll and get her chasing. It's a great jockey, Blake Shin, and especially taking on that great mare and trying to get her beat. Fantastic.
I love everything about it.
Yeah.
The jockeymanship in that involved, what it brought out in those horses.
Yeah.
It's just exciting for racing and what it means for them at their next runs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's, it's exciting that other companies going into a $5 million race off that.
We have to assume Mystic Journey's there, coming off the course and distance. Beating a good team of 3-year-olds in a grand final. I mean, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And Elise's just been in supreme form, but she's running into a real contest now.
Yeah, it's just turned out from what for all the fun and games of the voting and the slow ones getting a run to what it's sort of transformed into now in the last after Saturday with those two horses. It's quite mouthwatering what's going to happen, really.
And I'm really looking forward to it. I don't suppose there'd be any horses that would be qualified or get a wild card that could back up off the Australian Cup. But I mean, there's just that.
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah, $5 million, and they get offered something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just speaking of match races or things like that. Winx and Happy Clubber. Even yesterday, Potts, two really, really good horses we got down here, winners. Ashlaw and Widgie Turf took on each other in the Eldorado up at Wangaratta, both 10 wins from 25 runs each, and there's a pimple between them on the line. And
it was just outstanding. I mean, there was so many. I actually did the form of that race. I didn't send it out to my subscribers because they were both, hard in the market. Obviously,
yeah, it was two.
It's just a match race, but the mouthwatering parts of that race was, first of all, it was 1300, so it's probably 50 metres too far for Ashlaw, and it's probably 100 metres too short for Widgie Turf. And like one of them was going to get in the controlling position, and the other one was sort of going to have to be written a bit out of his pattern to stay in contact. And it was just a great contest of position over strength, and millimetres in it in the end.
Yeah.
So I sort of did the race. So my raw prices were like $1.75 Widgie Turf, $3 Ashlaw. Then I looked at it and went, well, Ashlaw's got the position here. He's sort of in control. Widgie Turf's going to have to make it happen. So I sort of thought maybe more like $2.50 Ashlaw, $1.90, $2 Widgie Turf. That'd be about the market, but it was still too tight to really.
Too tight to play in the market.
Yeah.
They're so well exposed, those two horses, and they're just winners.
And it was a great. I mean, I didn't have a bet in the race, and I really enjoyed watching
the
contest.
Yeah.
It was good, and even a sniff of a protest, even though it was a terrible protest in the end. I Rick almost talked him into protesting, even though there were absolutely no grounds. And
I went to boarding school with Dan McCarthy. He was in the year ahead of us, so it was great to see it win for him. And he was in the year with Matt Tripp and the boys ahead of us. And I saw him say after the race that there was a perfect race, obviously 1200 for it at Moonee Valley.
Yeah. And
they were humming, and they were hoping Widgie Turf would run yesterday, and then he didn't. So they were thinking,
and scratched it with a minute to go, Widgie Turf on Saturday.
Yeah, with a minute to go. Yeah. And then the club had got behind their All-Star Mile pushing it. So even though the 1300 wasn't ideal, they said, we'll run him and hope for the best. And he didn't let him down. So good stuff. And
then it followed up with another protest in a very tight finish in the Wangaratta Cup.
Yeah, well, I didn't see the head on, but I did see some movement there. That what was El Nolan was in behind.
He got sandwiched in between the
Silent
Warrior and
Corby Hanson.
Yeah.
So another exciting finish.
I have to say that since Robert Cram's taken over the Stewards panel, I really like the way they're handling protests.
Oh, okay.
They're only, in my experience, they're only holding up ones where it's like really blatant, and there's no
intimidation.
Yeah, no intimidation. No Tavachi and Palantino type scenarios where it's happened at 1200 from home or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was one at Sandown last week that probably could have gone either way, but
that was it. Yep.
I think that the thing was that you could have run that race 10 times, and the Tony McAvoy, what was she called?
Life's Discreet. No, was it?
No.
Whatever it was. Beat the Robbie Lang thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would have won that race every time. Empoy crossed the fence when he probably shouldn't have. He probably should have ridden it like Jake Noonan rode the last win of that on that day that Ravens Blaze. The Tony Noonan trained horse, sat sort of up and off
and just kept
and
in that
controlled everything, but he went across the fence and then hung out late.
Tired.
You could have run that race a lot of times and that horse would have won it every time.
Yeah.
But in the end, you almost would have understood if that protest was upheld. It wouldn't have been a shock, And even that one yesterday, it was close, and there were some grounds there for Sin to win, I think, for sure. But I actually think it's much better to let the horses decide it on the track and only uphold them when a horse has been obviously disadvantaged more than the margin. So I think they're handling protests extremely well in Victoria now.
If the stewards are up, that's good. We don't have to do that. That's good. I'll just while we're on Sandown and match races, thought there might have been something. There was a race last week there which we all sort of got involved in and thought there might be something to take out of. We maybe can discuss. Was a race on Wednesday with two favourites, two nice up and coming horses. No Dramas Darcy, who we liked, who was in his second prep and had the platform and whatnot, and a horse called Permissive Star, who was having a second start looked on a very impressive maiden win at Benalla, but did get best use of the track. It absolutely teamed down with rain, and after its win, the betting obviously, a lot of punters, great punters, all sided with No Dramas Darcy, the Winx, Arcadi, RVR, IVR, sectional stuff, off the raw stuff at Benalla sided with Permissive Star, and there wasn't much between them. Maybe Matt, but didn't you have any thoughts on that race, Potts? You got involved there, didn't you?
Yeah, well, it was a real match race, and that's the way they finished. They finished within ahead of each other.
That's right.
Permissive Star ended up with position. So
it began brilliantly.
It began brilliantly. He got control of the race. There were two other on paces there that didn't contest the lead, and then it was left to I think it was Liam Reard might have sat outside and just didn't apply any pressure at all. So Ben Melham had to go round the race. So I suppose the position stuff was a bit unexpected that Permissive Star got as much control as he did, and I think if you run that race 10 times, they'd probably split it. They'd probably win 5 each. And the problem with Permissive Star, it was a little bit tricky to really evaluate the merit of that Benalla win because of the rain post that race and the fact that there was inside bias that day. But I think it's one of the when you run across, it's worth discussing because we've run across a few bias tracks recently, particularly out wider. So Benalla, there was one at, was it Terang or Cole?
Terang last Wednesday. Well, you couldn't be one off the fence.
It had to be inside.
It had to be one on the rail.
On the rail,
yeah. And bias, and vice versa.
We've had the Stony Creek down the outside.
Cole Lake, Canberra down the middle. Cole Lake yesterday after being down the outside rail, and it was been a mad leaders track for 20 years. So it's every day's something happening, Potts.
So when you're rating those races, it can be tricky rating the merit of the winner. And like what you can obviously do is forgive the beaten runners that have been disadvantaged. So you can be very forgiving on those. But assessing the merit of the winner who's had an advantage can be a fraught business, and it's dangerous. Like I might have penalised Permissive Star a little bit too much because of those advantages, you know. So.
And then you sort of had the General Short who chased it home, come out as a very short price favourite, but obviously needed the paddock and just fell in it. Seymour in his when he off that run.
Yeah.
Illinois is the form much? Yeah. Then you're sort of erring on that, taking that, penalising it is the right answer. And then our Permissive Star goes to town and wins next.
Yeah,
that's all. It's all, which is a good thing. You can change your ratings.
Yeah.
So you've got to, you've got to live and die by your decisions. But
and that's the thing. You have to make a decision pre-race, and then decide if you're going to bet based on those decisions. But then after the race, if you feel like you've made an error, there's no reason for you not to correct it.
Yeah,
I mean, you must correct it.
Yeah.
Is the answer. And then moving forward, then you've got better information. So that, to me, if you want to say that last Wednesday I made a mistake penalising Permissive Star a little too much, and perhaps giving No Dramas Darcy too much benefit of the doubt because he chased a really
in a sensational ride from the barrier that day, wasn't it, to get down and suck through, and not suck through, but he accelerated through on the inside.
I thought it was good credit to the horse that was able to run that well under those circumstances.
Got half a length of it,
But at the end of the day, I think you make better decisions going forward out of situations like that because you've bet in the race, because you're invested and you put a lot of work into the pre-race, and then you've gone through the experience of the race and you watch the replays. It allows you to make better judgments going forward than if you were just reviewing that race. That's why often in periods where the form can get a little bit tricky, I'm always happy to bet through it because I think you gain information on the way through. Sometimes you pay a price for it, a bit of a dent in your bank, but personally I think it's worthwhile. Now some other people, when they see red flags, so the sort of things I'm talking about is, so we're in a little bit of a crossover period right now, and because of that short break from spring to now, we're seeing a lot of races that are heavily populated by resumers and horses early in their preps, so that's that's tricky, and you know that can make some of the results a bit random. Like we saw one at Sandown last Wednesday, the last race on the card. Like the Darren Weir stay that's gone.
Steel Prince.
Steel Prince. Like we couldn't get that horse going until it got to 2,400 metres and right up to 2,800 metres. And here it is, an 1,800 metre race. Just like if you just watched that race, you would have thought it was favourite. Like it just came over and
found the 1-1
and just popped out and fought them off. You know, like only won by a narrow margin in the end, but it's it never showed any of that kind of dash when it was with Weir. So. You know, that's the sort of thing that can happen in these periods. And that's a race that I've assessed, pre-race, watched the race, and just after it barely recognised what I expected. Yeah. You know, like I did back the third horse, Sacred. The one it had moved from Weir to
Sacred Theme.
Sacred Theme, yeah. Well, it had actually moved from McLean to Weir to McLean. I think it bobbed up for someone else last week. I can't remember. Or is it still with Jared McLean?
Henry Dwyer or something?
I can't remember.
It's
Anyway,
in the Saunders colours, isn't it?
Yeah. And then I expected Plot the Course to run okay, and he just couldn't get out of his own way. He was dreadful.
Yeah, I thought he ran well too, yeah.
And Mr. Monaco was hard to assess, and the market said he was going to run well, and he did. Linda there. So, you know, that to me, that's a symptom of these periods where the form can be a bit tricky. You've got to watch out for certain things. It normally takes me a week to catch it, but it happened to me a few times last week where I did the form for a race and I was well wide of the mark. So it means that I go into this week just a little bit more aware of it, just watching out for it a bit more, and I'm a bit more inclined to stay out of a race where it's a bit blurry, you know. Whereas last week I sort of went into those races. You know, January was good, February was pretty solid. We're going well, so you sort of try to ride the momentum. Then when I see that, that's how I sort of treat these crossover periods. Just be a little bit aware of what's happening, and be, you know, if you're not comfortable with it, don't be afraid to stay out of the race. You do sense it,
don't you? Yeah. All right.
There we go.
You want to come back and have a look at Flemington after this?
Yeah, that sounds good, DK. That'll do us for part one.
Good.